So in this video, we're going to be discussing Adobe Generator, available inside of Photoshop. The reason that I'm inserting it right now in the middle of this discussion of resolution and pixel count is to continue on and show you the workaround that I found for working with websites and generating images. You kind of have to understand what this program is and why we would even need a workaround. So what I'm going to suggest to you is this: go ahead, learn everything from this video, be able to come back and access this video once you start laying out your websites in Photoshop with the workaround that I'll introduce. Do want you to realize that Generator is essentially the replacement for Save for Web that had been available for many years in Photoshop. So if we had an image and we wanted to save it for web, we'd go to File, Save for Web. Well, they haven't got rid of it completely. It's still temporarily available under Export and then Save for Web Legacy. The thing that was nice about this is it allowed us to be sure that our image would be generated in sRGB mode. It also, while we were inside of here, we could look at, say, a ping compared to a JPEG, see how much file space it was going to take up, and get an idea of the quality versus file size load time issue. But it quickly became outdated, and it's kind of cumbersome going in doing one image at a time. So it's being replaced with Adobe Generate, which will allow us to work on our layouts of our websites and generate out the images almost simultaneously. There's just one thing that Generator doesn't quite do in its workflow yet, and that's eliminate that problem we had with pixel count and resolution. But I will talk about a workaround on that, and so your life will still be pretty darn easy as far as generating your assets. And just to give you an idea of where we're going from here, is the next video after Generator will cover images, color for the web, so the color profiles and what hex numbers mean and things like that, and then the different formats that you have available: JPEG, PNG, GIF, even SVGs. And then we'll talk about cropping or resizing in Photoshop to specific sizes, and then we'll finally get to what'll bring all this together, and that's laying out our websites in Photoshop and then having all of our assets ready for the program that we put our websites together in, or handing them off to another team that does that for us. So let me give you a quick overview of what Generator does, and then we'll go back and fill in some details. First thing I'd suggest is that when you work in this program, the layout page that you're working on in Photoshop, you go ahead and save that into a folder. So I made up this fictitious website called Something Other. So Something Other has its own folder. Inside of Something Other is the Photoshop document that I'm working on. Now, when we go in, this is amazing how easy this is. All we have to do is go up to File, Generate, and go to Image Assets. And this is basically just a toggle button. So when I click on it, it puts a check mark next to it. So if I want to verify that it's on, I just go to File, Generate, and then I see Images has a check mark next to it. And if I put my mouse over it again, it would remove the check mark. So I don't want to do that. And then all I have to do is go to one of my layers. So this thing here called Image 2. And what I do is I give the layer a name that has an extension on it, and Photoshop automatically recognizes that what I'm trying to do is generate out an asset based on that image that I could then use on a website. So I just double click in here to get my cursor in here, and I could call this, say, right.jpg for the right side of the page, and hit return. I don't have to hit enter or anything like that. And I have my files open up over here so we can see a little bit of what's happening here. So you'll see that inside of my folder, all there was before was just this PSD file. Now there's one in here that's the name of this document with a hyphen and then the word assets. And now there is a JPEG image that resides in here that was just created. There's an error message that may or may not come up, but trust me, I know this error and it's not an important one, but we will talk about it eventually. So there's really nothing more to it than that. But let me go ahead and show you some of the key features or things that you can do with these naming conventions. So here are more things that we can do. We could name our file with .png, it would generate a PNG. We can name it with GIF and it'll generate a GIF. If we separate with commas, it will generate one of each of those things. If we precede it with a size, it will make an image twice that size. Now remember, from the previous videos, you're relying on the machine to upsample. There are a couple exceptions to this. You can finish the title or the extension with a number, and in this case that 5 means 50% quality. And just so you know, by default it makes JPEGs at 9 or 90% quality. So let's go try a couple of these and we'll come back. So for this image over on the left here, I'm just going to toggle the eyeball, make sure that's what it is. I'll double click in here and we'll see if we can get it to generate 3 different image types for us. So I typed left.jpg, comma, a space, left.png, comma, a space, left.gif. And then if we go over here, we can see that we have all of those images generated for us, including the one that we made earlier. Now let's say we realize, oh, I don't need a GIF. So we can go back in here, change the naming, and let's remove GIF from here. Now you would think that it's just going to still leave the GIF in there, but look at this. It's just completely on the fly. So once we enter that name, it immediately checks through and says, oh, this is what you want. So it'll get rid of images. It'll overwrite images. In fact, look at this. You can see right now this write.jpg is 400 by 276 pixels. If we go to write.jpg, get our cursor in there and put 50% a space and then hit return. When we go into the folder, we can see that that image is still there, but it is now 1/2 the size. And there's no danger to now going back in and removing that 50% because we're not doing any damage to this document. So by telling it that image to be 50%, Generator generated an image at 50%, but it had no effect on the image that was inside of our PSD document. Keeping in mind that there will be a video in this section that covers some of the differences between JPEGs and PNGs and so on. But just know this, that when you call out the ping extension in Generate, it automatically generates a ping 32, which means that it supports transparency. If you didn't need transparency and you wanted to save a little bit of file size, you could say ping 24, and there is no space in there, so I'll remove that right now. And then you even have the other option of a ping 8, which is the file that's similar to a GIF. So let's try the quality and monkeying around with the ping option too. So if I take this right image and I put a number after JPEG, 1 being the worst quality but smallest file size and 10 being the highest, let's try a 1, go out to the file, there we have write, and I'll open that in Photoshop so you can see that it's not the best of quality with a 1 setting next to it. Take the left image and create a ping 8 out of it. So just go all the way over here to the dot and then PNG and then 8. Hit return to input that. Go look in our file. And oh, I must have done something wrong there. So what did I do wrong? Oh yeah, I have jping. And that's probably showing up in that errors right now. So if ever you go in there and you're not getting something that you expect, look in there. In fact, in just a second, I'll show you what that error is that was in there to start with. So now we go back over here, and there's the ping file, and let's open that in Photoshop to look at it by itself. Bring it up a little bit. Actually didn't do too bad of a job for only 8 bits of data in there, but in the future video I'll explain to you what that is. Let's look at our errors. The thing it's saying is that there's a layer in there, and remember it looks for extension, so there's a layer in there named .com, which just ironically happens to be the name of the website, right? So it sees that text in there for the website, and it thinks that we're trying to generate an image. So no big deal, it's just telling us that it can't do it. We haven't covered smart objects yet, but this right here is a vector graphic created in Illustrator and then brought into this Photoshop document as a smart object. So it's vector. And typically, upsampling something that's a vector is not a problem, and luckily, Photoshop knows how to treat this now in this version of Generator. So if we go to this logo, and I want to upsample that to, I'll even go like 2400%. So that's going to be 24 times its normal size, which you would expect it to be incredibly pixelated if it were a bitmap image. And I'll create this as a ping, and then we'll go over here and we'll open this up in Photoshop, and you can see that it has perfect quality to it. And the fourth file type that Generator supports is SVG. So if you do have vector graphics in your composition, then you can put the extension SVG, Scalable Vector Graphic, and you will get one of those. And these are becoming more and more popular on websites. A friendly thing it can do is make one image from more than one layer. So let's say that we wanted this logo and this type to become a PNG. What we would do is take the 2 layers that we have and select them like I've done here. And if they're not next to each other, you can hold down the command key to click on the next one, and now both of these are selected. Go to the little drop down menu here and select new group from layers. That puts both of these into a new group, and I won't worry about naming it right now. And if I swing this little caret open, now we see that the logo and the type are inside of here, and then it's just a matter of naming this group with the same conventions that we've used before. So we could make, any of the 4 file types out of here. In this case, I'll just go logo, maybe all dot PNG. Click OK, and let's go take a look at that. Well, I'm glad that just happened. For some reason, it didn't show up. I thought maybe I made a mistake in naming it. Looked at the errors text, nothing. I just simply went into Photoshop and I went to File, Generate, and just turned it off, and then turned it back on, and it worked. So I guess it's not perfect. But here we go. We now have it. We can see it there in the preview, and kind of interesting to look at it inside of Photoshop because it's a PNG that supports transparency. We can see that we have the transparent background. Another thing that's pretty nice is that it also gives us just the right amount of space around it, which, let me just show you one more thing here that I find pretty interesting. If we wanted to create something right on the fly, like maybe you wanted to sign your name on your website somewhere using a Wacom tablet or whatever. So what we could do is just create a new layer for the signature, grab a pen tool, and do my signature, and then give that a name. So SIG for signature dot PNG, and we should now have that. And there we go. And once again, it's just going to generate just enough. It's not going to give us something that's the whole size of the website. So in this case, you can see that over the web, even though the website's itself is like almost 1,000 pixels by maybe 700-800 tall, this is just as big as it needs to be. So very intelligent program. In the next video, I'll show you a couple advanced features.